I am Dolos, mistress of deception and
All that
trickery.
remains is your
You are more
sacrifice.
powerful than he can
Humanity
imagine.
has outstayed its welcome. The dead shall inherit the earth. Listen to the sound of my voice. Can you hear me?
Who's there? I can't see you.
My name is Dr. Salim. We've met before.
Dr. Salim. Where am I?
You have fallen between the world of the living and the dead. The void.
I'm dead? No, I can't be dead. Deimos, I have to stop him.
And you still can. I'll explain as we go. For now, you must trust me. Think back to Coalescence. The start of your journey. The beginning.
The beginning. It started at Coalescence Singapore in 2070. 10 years after the disaster. After virus 6115 began its spread. After the dead began to walk the earth. We'd lost comms with John Taylor's squad, another undead extermination team. Dead killers, we were called. With our cybernetic augmentations, we were impossible to infect. We were trained to terminate the undead. Hendrix was on edge. We were in a quarantine zone, one of many walled-off areas separating humanity from the undead, built to keep the virus and the infected behind their wall, away from the rest of us. The undead weren't our only concern. The 54 Immortals, a local combine who remained in the containment zone, were aware of Taylor's activity. This place was the epicenter of the epidemic. The 2060 Coalescence disaster created the cursed world we lived in today. Any activity at this site would set off alarm bells. Either way, our troubles were only just beginning.
A Call of Duty Zombies campaign is something we've been asking for a very long time. And on November the 6th of 2015, it was finally, kind of, given to us. Treyarch had developed an almost 3-hour-long campaign based around zombies. And when we unlocked this for the first time, because you did have to complete the campaign originally to get access to this, however they did make it available for everyone shortly after, well, we were very excited only to quickly find out that it was a massive failure. Black Ops 3's Nightmare mode, its Zombies campaign, was, to put it nicely, terrible. Having originally only ever played this once, maybe twice, and then having to go back again and play it 3 years later, boy was it a massive struggle. You begin the Nightmares campaign, where you start out with a cutscene introducing you to the story, where we learn that an organisation built for the advancement of technology and human augmentation hosted a project known as Project Corvus, and this project led to the release of a virus known as 61-15, a chemical compound made from a mixture of both Nova 6 and element 115. Hence virus 61-15, 6 is for the Nova 6, and 1-15 is for the 115. And even though we can definitely see there are some relations here, with Nightmares also having power-ups, such as the insta-kill and max ammos, along with the mystery box, it seems to be in a totally separate universe to that of our usual zombies storyline, which is one of the many things that don't really make sense. But anyway, getting back to the story, we play as a character who is only known as the player. They don't have a name, but we learn that they are stuck in a void between life and death. It seems like Virus 6115 was unleashed upon humanity, creating hordes of the undead. As we know from the normal Black Ops 3 campaign, DNI or Direct Neutral Interface already exists at this time. It has already been implemented into soldiers, and so two demigods known as Deimos and Dolos begin to possess some of them, being Taylor, Diaz, Hall, Kane, and even the player. Deimos and Dolos possess these soldiers, and both of them strive to control humanity as their own personal army. However, both Deimos and Dolos oppose each other. They hate each other, and so have different goals. Deimos wanted to control humanity for a human army to defeat his sister. Dolos figured out her brother's intentions, and so patiently waits and follows the player, being us, who we are playing as, until she can strike through the player's actions. During the whole campaign, you can only ever hear two voices. These are of Dr. Salim and also of your own, which is actually a feature I really liked, having the whole story narrated in your head as you go on, instead of having other characters talk and explain things to you. There is just one voice explaining the story as you progress.
It was supposed to be by the books. 5 years after our cybernetic augmentations, Hendricks and I were a well-oiled machine. Quarantine sweeps, recon, search and rescue. It's just what dead killers do. But we'd never been sent after one of our own before. John Taylor's systems had gone quiet. With our direct neural interface, we're hardwired into Winslow Accord servers. Observation knew if you were dead or alive. For Taylor to be neither, that was unusual.
But Dr. Salim basically guides you through your past, where eventually we get to the end and it is revealed to us that Dr. Salim is actually Deimos. And the ending is even more confusing, but basically a bunch of our characters die, the player ends up killing Hendricks due to him turning crazy, and after realising that we are the only hosts left for Corvus, we then commit suicide, but instead were sent to the frozen forest, where the player comes up against both Deimos and Dolos. Dolos tells the player that she is the reason as to why she's still alive, and that she's going to use her to now kill her brother, Deimos. Dolos tells Deimos that she's going to end his reign of terror over humanity and that the time of the dead is over, and so that's exactly what happens. Dolos and the player burn Deimos' heart, they kill him, and after doing that, even though it shouldn't have happened, the player should have stayed in the frozen forest. There was no way for them to escape. They were sent back to reality, however, everything wasn't back to normal. Because of Dolos killing her brother, the god of terror, the universe was now thrown into anarchy, and so demigods, sirens, titans, deities alike would go to war. The player then says, let them come, and Dolos says to her, I like the sound of that. So what's the plan, partner? And that is where the storyline for Nightmares ends. So overall, the storyline basically is there are these two gods, Deimos and Dolos, brother and sister. Deimos comes down to Earth, sets off a zombie outbreak where he plans to take over humanity. His sister Dolos learns of this, and so she also comes down and acts as the protector of the player. She guides her through this journey, helping her survive the undead, where eventually they get to the end. They arrive at the frozen forest, where the player ends up killing Deimos, which allows them to escape the frozen forest. However, her normal reality, the universe, is now in uproar because a demigod has been killed, and so it seems like the journey continues. Dolos and the player are ready for whatever comes next, and it seems like Treyarch set this up perfectly for there to be a Nightmares 2. As we see with Black Ops 4, that never happened. This zombies campaign, in quotation marks, hasn't been continued, and I will say I actually do quite like the story. I like the premise, the background, anything that includes gods is always interesting to me, so I do think the storyline is pretty decent, although it's a bit of a mess and can get very confusing. But I think what put a lot of people off, and that's pretty much where the praise of this mode ends, it is the fact that everything from the maps, the weapons, the characters, every asset, every model, a lot of the cutscenes, the action moments in game, it is all reused and taken from Black Ops 3's campaign. Nothing is unique. Every single mission, which there are 11 of, is taken from Black Ops 3's campaign. Nothing unique was made for it. Basically, it is the Black Ops 3 campaign with zombies added into it. Getting into the actual gameplay, it is extremely boring. As you may or may not know, if you've played Black Ops 3, that is probably the worst campaign out of any Call of Duty we've ever had, and so to just reuse everything for a zombies campaign, of course, you don't expect it to be good. They haven't made any improvements, they've changed nothing. Also, the game mode is extremely buggy. I don't know if you saw it in this gameplay, but at the very beginning on the first mission, Hypo Center, you have to pick up one of the rocket launchers in order to take down the robot. That's the only way to progress. And as you saw, I'm pretty sure this is a glitch. I'll show you right here, but you can't actually pick up the launcher. It doesn't give you the option. You can pick up any other weapon, but the launcher, the one weapon that you need in order to defeat the boss, I guess, you can't pick it up. And then when you can, in order to use it, you first have to disable the robot by shooting it with a normal weapon. So you go to pick up a normal weapon, you disable it, and then you can't pick up a launcher. It's just really buggy. Eventually, I figured out that the only weapon you can use are the ones on the back of the trucks. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. It's so buggy. It's very clear that they haven't done a single patch for this since it was released. And I also know that because there is a feature or game mechanic in the Zombies campaign that I believe was in the main Black Ops 3 Zombies story as well, at the very beginning on Shadows of Evil and the Giant. But I think it was patched on day one. However, this patch clearly only came for the main Zombies maps, not this campaign. And that is when you get hit by a zombie, you dramatically slow down, you can't walk away, you can't turn. The only way to really get away is to use your exosuit and fly away. But this is a terrible feature. I have no idea why they ever added it into the game. As I said, I believe it was patched on day one. Clearly not for Nightmares mode, but as you can see right here, I get smacked by a zombie. You are immediately slowed down by like 80%. So you can't run away, you can't turn. And if there's two zombies next to you, which there is likely to be due to the horrible spawns, I'll talk about that in a second, but you're pretty much dead. You can't run away once you get hit by a zombie. So that for me is one of the main problems. Like I just said, the spawns on this as well, clearly no thought went into them because the zombies can spawn in like 100 different random locations in one area, and then also they just appear out of nowhere in front of you. You really have to play it to understand how terrible the spawns are. A lot of, if not all of the missions actually feel like you're on a timer, or in order to progress, you have to kill every single zombie before you can move on, which is bad because, yes, it might be like that in normal campaigns, but as I just said, Black Ops 3's campaign was extremely boring. It is the worst we've ever had in Call of Duty. And so immediately that leaves a negative effect on the Nightmares campaign. We already know what's going to happen. And so nothing fun happens, especially the first few missions. They're extremely boring. You're usually waiting around. The gameplay just isn't fun. And even though it doesn't really fit in, I feel like Nightmares is supposed to be more realistic compared to normal zombies. I do kind of like the implementation of the mystery box. And like I said, the power-ups, there are different ones that you can't get in normal zombies. I like the fact that there's ammo crates and customized weapons. But overall, Nightmares mode was just a complete failure. And it's disappointing because everyone has been asking for a zombies campaign for the longest time. Treyarch finally did it in Black Ops 3, but very badly. They reused everything from the campaign, which was terrible. They've hardly done anything with this. They've never added a patch. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. The story is pretty decent, but everything overall is just a mess. It seems like it's quite lazy and they didn't really care about it. They've just added it in for the sake of it. And I still would love to see a Call of Duty Zombies campaign in this style where you go through missions, learning the story as you go on, but I'd like to see it as its own standalone thing where it has its own models and assets. It is its own campaign, its own story, and I'd also like to see us playing as Richtofen and the crew, having a campaign for them, going through and learning a new story. And also the one thing I would take from this is the way it is narrated. Having just one or two voices in your head taking you through it instead of all of the characters talking. I think that was really cool. But yeah, that was Treyarch's Call of Duty Zombies campaign. Not what we expected. It definitely wasn't a success. But you know what? I'd love for them to attempt it again, but make it its own thing. Actually put in some work. But anyway, guys, there we go. That is all for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like rating, it would be much appreciated. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. And until next time, goodbye.
You move your mouth like a child, but you do not speak. I am Deimos, demigod of dread and terror, and you will not speak! Look at him, angry at his circumstances, in his attempts to be heard. But it's curious. How can you speak? You're mortal. Or at least so you would have me believe.
Deimos, I don't know what you think's happening.
Enough! In time, I'm sure it will become clear, but now I leave you to die.